ban for game number 1. Samsung starting things off over on the blue side, KT on the red, and likely just going to be seeing a lot of similar bans from today, with Malzahar being taken off the board first and foremost.
My biggest question is, will Samsung first pick Rumble if it's available? Because Juve played one of those Rumble games in a recent series. They ran the Syndra as well. Both of the players have been trying to pick up those meta picks in solo queue, and the results, well, the big W was achieved, but the individual performances on Mastery Champions weren't necessarily there for Juve or Crown, and giving over Rumble to Smeb is always a bad decision. So where Rumble falls through this draft will be interesting, and Rumble's the final ban, so clearly Samsung are not confident enough to first pick it, so forced to ban it on blue side, our Samsung Galaxy. Rengar and Graves, very frequent bans. Graves so far banned. I believe Samsung will first pick the Rengar if it's available, but there are compositional answers like the Lulu available for KT Rolster, and Camille still available. Will that be the final ban? It will not. They will leave Camille to Juve if he wants it, and Juve played it in the second game. It wasn't the perfect game, but the second game, he did play that Camille, and it was obliterated by KT Rolster.
And I mean, this is so risky if you let the Camille go through. I think you just have to kind of pick this one up if you're Juve, but even having that pick, running this into Smeb, who could very well bring out the Renekton, this is a really awkward spot to be in if you're KT, because Varus is open. The Rengar is also available for Score, who has quite a good win rate on that champion. So Varus, a no-brainer, will be locked in for death.
The first time in forever we've seen a Varus. I didn't even consider it because it's auto-banned in every other game. Prioritizing the Camille, who's been nerfed, who has some bad matchups for Juve, over the Varus for Ruler is a surprise, but I think that's just a respect onto Smeb's Camille, which we have seen in recent history. And now some of these high win rate champions start rolling in for KT Rolster. We had a couple of weeks with no Kha'Zix, but a lot more Kha'Zix recently.
Okay.
Score is 8-1 on Kha'Zix this season, been a big pick for KT Rolster. This does give over the Rengar, but KT could pick up the Lulu if it's not taken by Samsung as a compositional answer, and we've seen teams just shy away from that completely. Just make it work. Okay, very high prize on the Jhin. I guess Jhin is the only AD carry other than Ezreal that's around, and if you run Ezreal into the Varus, you're going to have a bad time wave clear-wise.
It will just be that big lethality matchup, and there we go. The Renekton does come through for Smeb. I mean, Samsung, you have to expect that they saw this coming from a mile away.
Worth noting that they could get tricky with the Camille. We've already seen first pick Camille into support Camille done by their Freak of Freaks, catching MVP off guards last week, and that could happen here again. So they could look for a different matchup into the Renekton. That's a bit tricky at times. So KT will start banning supports, which might actually help with the Camille being flexed if Core JJ has been playing it. We know Core JJ to play a lot of off-the-wall picks. He was argued to be the one who played the support Misfortune first, even before we saw it from Gorilla, famously, in the Rocks Tigers versus SK Telecom World Semifinals.
I mean, he's no Tucson, but definitely could see that brought out. Ari will be banned away from Pawn.
Is that an insult, to be clear? What does he's no Tucson mean?
I don't know, actually.
He's not actually the person who's named himself
Tucson. He's no Tucson when it comes to the really off-the-wall picks. I mean, Tucson's favorite is Aurelia support.
And he does have Wraith as a comparison, who plays support Kayle, apparently.
That's very true. So he's definitely going to look normal in that regard, but as far as performance goes, yeah, I think that Core JJ is also no Tucson. He's been having a bit of a more consistent time. But Karma, Tom Kench, the bans are really banning away at that support pool. Core JJ, the Zyra still available for him if they don't want to flex.
I was going to say the Zyra does look like the support you pick up in this regard. It's a dive comp from Samsung as well. Well, it's a dive comp as well, and we've seen a lot of Zyra recently, so I think it fits here. It does allow for potential counter pick for Pawn.
Oh, but they take it away.
So I was actually thinking it for KT in this scenario over for Samsung, just because Samsung have the dive comp, so it's a great answer. And Syndra's going to be blind picked, very standard blind pick, but it's Crown on Syndra, who, again, won on Syndra, but hasn't necessarily impressed us. They'll go with the Rengar. They've got some Wombo engage, but already the disengage is provided by Zyra. Where does Pawn want to go? He could go Orianna, but the laning matchup is pretty rough. In team fights, it would work out. Ryze also is a risk. We already saw this matchup earlier today, but it'll be locked in. It's been one of the most played by KT so far this season. Intriguing. So 1-3-1 is the big possibility with KT. And the 1-3-1 here is even stronger than any 1-3-1 we've seen recently, because if Renekton gets ahead, if Ryze hits his scaling, then you cannot ask for any champion other than Varus to instant wave clear in mid lane while the 1-3-1 is happening. So the wave clear from Varus is the unique factor that we haven't seen on the Rift for a long time. The 1-3-1 could certainly get going, but you send Renekton behind, you get Ryze behind, and maybe you just try and blow away KT Rolster as Rox Tigers were able to in Game 2 today. But it's a different ask for Samsung, who just need to avoid the perfect game. Even the first kill is going to be a sigh of relief for Samsung, because the last time these two teams faced was the most one-sided series we've seen this season.
Yeah. It was absolutely brutal to watch, but Samsung, as you say, they want to avoid that at all costs. They want to come up with the win. And putting Crown back on the Syndra is a little bit of a risk to that.
Picking Ryze into it, a risk in itself. So I don't know where the respect lies between the two mid laners, given both of them have taken pretty big risks in terms of champion selection.
There's just no respect anywhere.
And I mean, Def has got Varus, which is a champion that he has a high and everyone has a high win rate on. Auto banned in basically every series in recent memory, but available in this game.
Definitely interesting draft coming through. We'll see how Cuvée especially is going to fare up in that top lane. Has the Camille, but going up against Smeb's Renekton is no easy task. Definitely a tall order for him to try and match it. Let's see if he can do it. Let's get on to the Rift for game number 1. Samsung versus KT Rolster. Samsung charging down the bot lane. Ruler is alone in the river.
It's level 1 here, so hook shot is so strong from Cuvée.
Yeah, it looks like they might have been spotted though walking forward, so not going to be finding that first blood onto Mata.
Smeb in what was the reverse matchup, got the solo kill, you remember, in a Camille versus Rengar matchup. So Cuvée is going to be trying to do his best Smeb impression. Looking at the early wards, because a lot has happened in the early one. There's hello there. Thank you, O Gaming. Coming through from one of the fans, clearly a French fan in attendance, and some Samsung fans as well.
A couple Western fans here in the audience today.
Good game to show up for.
Definitely is. A lot of times it's hard to get the tickets for these key matchups, so you have to expect these guys must have made their purchases in advance.
It's a matchup with a lot of history, as you were mentioning. Most recently, the big match was that best-of-5 where KT, they came in with that massive win streak. I believe it was 19 at the time against Samsung, and then lost out in the regional playoffs after losing out in the grand final of summer to not qualify for Worlds 2016, and what was a massive surprise. And Samsung finally picked up that huge series victory, with Core JJ just being 10, 15 games into his support career. But the numbers, as you can imagine, definitely are still very much on the side of KT Rolster. In the regular season, ever since the start of the LCK in the start of 2015, it is 18-0 between these teams. So more history that Samsung is looking to come up against. SKT were able to do that in many ways yesterday by beating Afrika.
Yeah, just a bit. Mata, really nice juke out on that deadly flourish. They'll trade some damage back to Core JJ. Piercing arrow coming through as well. So just potions and biscuits going to have to be chucked up on either side to keep themselves sustained in the lane score. Maybe with a roam down early.
KT have a lot more information on the jungle route. They know that Ambition's not here.
Oh, Ruler's walking straight over towards the brush. Immediate flash away. Roots won't be in range to clip him. Neither will that deadly flourish. Already some rough stuff. Meanwhile, back in mid, Pawn and Crown duking it out. That'll be an exchange of blows, but looks like they'll be otherwise pretty even to start things off.
A lot of trading going on in bot. Surprised to see the flash come through from Score, but Mata flashed as well. So double flash was used by KT, and they only managed to get the summoners from Ruler. It seemed a bit too overzealous, and clearly the flash route did not come through from Mata, who's got no biscuits left after the very heavy early trade, but because of the 4-man invade into bottom, that's why KT got 2 wards down. Knew basically the precise route from Ambition, saw that predictably he went for the slow, greedy route. That's the Ambition way, and Rengar is a bit more farm-centric. Tried to make a play, and they got the summoners from Ruler for it, basically.
Yeah. Maybe we'll see a revisit at some point here, but you have to expect that after that, Samsung is going to be playing a bit more cautious here. Wada just getting that natural regen coming through, almost back up to about half HP, so he's in a decent spot so far. Ambition going to be spotted by the Scuttle Crab.
Bit frustrated because he took a very creative route to get there with the blasting plan.
Tried to get the wrap around, but just, god damn.
Interestingly, Cuvée is maxing W in this matchup. That used to be the auto max, but after the nerfs on 7.4 and 7.3, it's been Q-Max most of the time, the Precision Protocol. That was also the Q-Max that Smeb on Camille took down a Renekton on, so bit different here. Cuvée looking for a bit more safe wave clear than necessarily perhaps an all-in trade. It is a very heavily Renekton-favored matchup, so you can understand it.
Yeah, I'll have to give him credit for that one, because not only is it just the Renekton-favored, but it's also going up against Smeb, so to be as careful as possible is probably a good idea for Cuvée. Score going to be walking into the jungle. Pops at that scrying plant. We'll see Ambition, but won't be able to go in for any trades or takeaways.
The storyline behind that famous Samsung victory in the regional qualifier was also how much time the Samsung players, after losing to KT in the playoffs, put in to increase their champion pools. And the same story is true for Syndra, for Crown, who's put in 91 games in solo queue on Syndra, by far his most played. Again, we still weren't convinced when we saw the Syndra 2 series, 3 series ago from him, but I mean, you can't argue with how much work he's put in, that's for sure.
Yeah. On, really starting to lose out on these exchanges. Level 6 not quite there for Crown, but you have to say, a bit risky also not going for the exhaust on the rise. Obviously the Ghost is your desired summoner spell, but not being able to mitigate that damage coming through from the Unleashed Power could very well punish him.
It is the double disrespect of Rise into Syndra and not taking exhaust. He's basically saying, well, I don't think you're going to solo kill me in lane, and I'm going to have Ghost Flash for the 1-3-1 that we will win pretty handedly. But the only way you lose that 1-3-1 is if Renekton or Rise falls behind, and certainly if both fall behind, then you're in a lot of trouble there. Camille, if she hits her item timings faster, will be able to outduel the Renekton, even though it is Renekton favored in the early game.
Yeah, right now Cuvée is in a decent spot, has the Ninja Tabi coming through. Smeb will match that. He'll be up that Doran's Blade and the Longsword, but will be more sustained for Cuvée with that potion.
Well, it's no sustain at all for Smeb.
He's got his passive in his queue.
Okay, well, I'm talking about no pots or potions or anything like that. Does suggest maybe a jungle gank, or perhaps it's just a mind game threatening a jungle gank, because usually when you enter lane with no regen in terms of items, that's a telltale sign.
Well, right now, Score's on that bottom half of the map, so if he wants to pay a visit, he's going to have to start hiking his way up the river. Ambition was hovering around bottom, but doesn't see an opening, doesn't have level 6 yet, so can't come sprinting in with Thrill of the Hunt. So it just has to go back in to farm a little bit more. Then maybe we start seeing the creative plays come out.
One of the surprises for me is that in Game 1 we're not seeing any Gragas. It was Score that brought back the jungle Gragas, and while Ambition hasn't played it much in solo queue, he has historically, his second most played champion is Gragas, because he was a great Gragas player in the past. Ambition's hit a fast level 6, so looking for a gank, but Ruler doesn't have access to the Throw of the Hunt, so doesn't have access to the Curtain Call yet. Throw of the Hunt is up.
He's waiting to enter into the brush, so Ruler will be bringing up these minions.
He's kind of suspiciously pushing here, though.
Yeah, seems a little conspicuous. Ward will go down to the brush.
And it's a team thing as well. You see Renekton placing a wall. Like, Gromp's not up. That's weird. I wonder where Renekton and Rengar are. Well, Rengar is spotted this time, so trying to play the team game to relieve pressure from bot.
Yeah, Cuvée just holding on as best as he can. See the trades. Will be one out by Smeb at the moment, but Cuvée is going to need a couple more items before he's able to try to come out on top of those. Ambition now up towards his top side. Drags the blue buff into the brush, but Smeb score pushing forward. They don't want to go checking blindly. They know that Crown is taking this from over the wall and Pawn is not nearby, so they just let him take it. So a lot of spam ability coming through from Crown. Meanwhile, bottom, Ruler has to burn his flash yet again. Get away from those chains of corruption.
Only level 1 on the Realm Warp, so Pawn not able to be there. So far not punished for the greed of both the champion and the summoner spells. Only 12 CS down, getting his stacking started. The Renekton, is ahead, but only, half a minion wave, not really any more than that. So when it comes to bad matchups on paper, neither of them are really punishing as hard as they possibly could.
Yeah, you're seeing it translate to about 120 or so odd gold there for Smeb in the lead. So definitely Cuvée in a pretty decent spot. Smeb's not able to bully him out like you might expect.
He wants a control ward.
Yeah, he'll wrap around, he'll find it. Opens up score for maybe a wraparound gank. Since Smeb is over level 6, has that dominance, so can take up a couple more turret shots if it comes down to it. For now, it's going to be slow and steady. CS war being won in mid and bottom at the moment. This Ruler's got a pretty nice lead. Flash forward from Mata. Root's not going to connect. Flash away by Core JJ, so just going to be an exchange.
Very aggressive from Mata. He does this sometimes. Of course, we saw some great plays from him on Worlds, onto Double Lift in particular. The RNG versus TSM games in the group stages of Worlds. Sometimes looks like a genius. You remember back to his Zyra flash over the Raptors wall that won them a team fight. That got him an MVP in that game. But sometimes you look a bit silly. Shot calling still the same. OGN shot calling video against Samsung Galaxy, actually. Shows you just how the information flow is through Mata, just as it was back on the Samsung White days in 2014.
Well, doesn't lose out on too much, though, given the flash for flash. So at least goes evenly with Core JJ.
Surprisingly passive early game from Score in particular. Throwing Ambition off his comfort. Sounds like a win, but allowing Ambition to get a comfortable early game. I mean, Ambition was always a great late game team fighter. Whether it was as a mid laner, where there was that famous meme where if Ambition gets first blood, it's a hold that thought.
Yeah, ultimatum throw down. Smeb gonna pop the dominance, taking so much damage though, and he is gonna go down. Heal tries to keep him alive. Flat forward. Ambition actually doesn't have it. Smeb miraculously lives, and there's no way for Samsung to dive us unless Cuvée wants to take the turret shots. But this would be so risky. Hook shot forward. Finds the stun. There we go. Takes him out. Nicely done by Samsung, but definitely not nearly as clean as they would like. They get the first blood, but now the turret going down in the bottom lane. Curtain call coming through, just trying to dissuade them. KT will be finding first brick.
And this is what KT get because of all the extra time it took for Samsung to pick up the kill. They get the wave in the right spot. They zone away Samsung for the longest time. Cannot threaten that their jungler will be there because he's conspicuously on the map. So great moves from Smeb to live as long as he did, and took 2 flashes in addition to bring him down. Won't even lose his turret as an answer. And the bonus objectives go over to KT. So for 1 kill, you get Cloud Drake and the first brick. So win overall to KT Rolster.
Yeah, definitely nice. They'll keep that gold lead over in their favor. Now 500 up over Samsung. Such good moves by Smeb. Look dead to rights completely off the bat of that gank, but just buys so much time for the rest of the team.
And in the meantime, the other lanes, mid lane is still 25 CS down, but because Crown was holding on to gold for the longest time, there's still no kill pressure on the greedy Ghost Flash Rise pick. So sustaining is perhaps a strong word for 25 CS down, but what to say there? And bot lane in a good spot. Not CS-wise, because they've been focusing on pushing down the turret, but first brick already achieved for KT Rolster. Well, the perfect game's over, so at least Samsung fans can breathe that sigh of relief.
That's true. They got that taken care of, but now can they close it out? Is going to be the question. Cuvée starting things off has the Phage, so not going to see the Sheen Rush once that added bit of defense coming through, and then has the Tiamat so he can match the pushing, or try to match the pushing of Smeb.
So the kill basically got him the completed Phage, so the Rage passive is what separates the two, given they're going for the same item build. Neck and neck in that. Much earlier Rod of Ages than we saw in our first series, around 12 minutes for Pawn. I didn't know he had the ranged on auto attack to do that. Surprise.
Guess so.
Smep's still going to have the pushing advantage in this lane. One thing that Camille does not have is push, which she has everything else, so she couldn't have literally everything in the game.
They tried. Some things got vetoed.
I mean, her Q applies Tiamat, so it's close enough. You forget how annoying Varus is.
It begins, yeah. Has the Caulfields, has the serrated Dirk, so the damage is going to start rolling through from him. I
gotta say, literally the most unfair interaction is if you get Elder Drake onto the Varus, the Qs are just the most obscene. They do about 600, like 60% of your health, plus a burn. If you go the lethality build, that no doubt will come through from Deft. How many Ninja Tabis are we talking? Because might only be 2 from the side of Samsung.
Yeah, I doubt we're going to see one from Crown. Or Core JJ, so it should just be the 2. Cuvier's playing really far up, uses the hook shot. Now Smeb go into the dominance, dashes forward. Doesn't have the stun though. Ambition is nearby. Does he want to leap in? Yes, he does. Jumps in onto Smeb, gets a lot of damage down onto the Renekton, but they can't follow up for the kill yet. Crown has roamed all the way up from mid lane, but as has Pawn. He gets locked up, and he should go down. Yes, he does. There we go. Overload from Pawn. Is able to secure the kill, and Samsung lose a fight that they picked. Now the Run Warp coming through, trying to cut off Core JJ. Pawn the only one coming through. Does he have the move speed to get away from the Rune Prison? Has to juke back around the minions. Pawn doesn't have the most damage yet, but they'll still get the Wild Growth burned.
A 5-man map rotation from KT. They sent everyone to the top because they already had first brick in bot lane. Now they show up. Camille, like we said, what's she to do? Has to watch as the turret goes down. Might have to wait for another minion wave, might not, depending on how much they want it. They seem to want it pretty bad. They want Camille, too.
Corruption coming down, layered with the grasping roots. They find the kill. Score picks up the blow. And now they're going to just try to finish this one off. Looks like they'll be able to do so. Samsung can't push forward, and KT just keep on trucking. 2,000 gold in the lead.
The 5 men in top lane. No Jhin in top lane meant the face check from Crown was too much. Caught out in that rotation. They continue to push. Pawn's pushing in the mid lane. Map pressure is solely in the possession of KT Rolster, and Samsung, as they so often have against KT Rolster in the regular season, they're passengers, and that batch is on the KT Express.
They want off KT's Wild Ride right now.
If you guys didn't know, KTX is the name of the bullet train system here. Seems like the KTX is what KT's riding. We've seen this before, Achilles.
Samsung's on the bus.
And not the good bus, the slow bus.
The really slow bus. Takes you 45 minutes to get to your destination, a couple kilometers away.
And now you feel great if you're Pawn, because like, wow, I went Ghost Flash against the Syndra and I'm fine. Sweet, now I can split push. And
life's great.
She just has to stay in mid lane and wave clear a little bit.
I got my 12-minute Rod of Ages.
Things went way better than expected for Pawn this time.
And, you know, Samsung haven't been playing the rest of this very well, but you have to wonder what would happen if Crown had a more Crown-esque champion rather than this Syndra that he's very desperately trying to make work for him.
But you wonder what that Crown-esque champion is because, you know, Victor's certainly a possibility, but hasn't been working for him. Ironically, Pawn's had the better Victor games this season. He's 3-0 on the Victor. Orianna is a possibility. Could have blind, but it's a blind pick mid laner, so on the red side, maybe we'll get a better matchup for Crown, but the thing he wanted to do was to add Syndra to a ban list against him, and that's what he's been trying to cement in recent times with all the solo queue games, with games like this, but increasingly the games seem to be going this way, which leaves Syndra open more often than not for Samsung.
Uh-oh, Ambition running straight into Smeb, pops the Dominus, has a lot of damage trying to lock down this Rengar. Score here to follow up. With Spike's not going to find anybody. They jump away, but the roots come through from Mata. Beautiful flash over the wall to line that one up. Comes up with a kill. Well, Crown and Pawn duking it out in bot. Pawn down to half HP, but has the shields coming through. Has a lot of damage to offer up with this Rise. Crown needs to pop his ultimate soon. If he wants to come out on top of this one, throws it out, but won't get the damage in. Pawn flashes to the side, and he comes up with a solo kill. Nicely done by him. And KT are just running all over Samsung.
Crown looks frustrated. The flash actually came up really big. Exhaust would have too, but Exhaust was never used by Crown, crucially.
Yeah, questionable for sure.
And the sinking feeling that Samsung fans have had consistently against KT outside of the one cathartic series win returns for the side of Samsung Galaxy. KT in full control. Cherry on top was a solo kill from the Rise in the side lane, but to be fair, Syndra doesn't want to be in the side lane to begin with. With side lanes down, the 1-3-1 happening, there's really no good space for Samsung, no good allocation of their resources. And if KT play it controlled, there should be no way back for Samsung Galaxy.
Yeah, Smab just getting turned into a monster here. Black Cleaver completed for him now. That's that Rift Herald buff coming through. Be riding that one out till about 38 minutes or so.
Oh, we're getting closer and closer to 4 monsters on the side of KT, and a Flash Zyra grasping roots, so. Yeah, I mean, Varus is another ticking time bomb. We talked about how strong he is in the late game. Already a Drake stack, and second one if they want it, but just focusing on trying to find a way to get this mid lane turret down. Where was this KT against Jin Air?
I don't know.
I mean, we could say the same thing about KT versus MVP, where they didn't look up for it and lost that series. You hope this KT is the one we see when we hit playoffs and not the one that situationally feel like they can make any game a struggle when in other situations they can feel like they can stomp any team in the world. When your ceiling is this high, sometimes you can afford the struggles.
Oh boy, Ruler. In a bad spot, has to flash away from the Chain of Corruption. Morp coming through. Pawn and Score coming over the wall. Ambition gonna get locked down, gonna get popped. Smeb just takes him out. KT just keep going forward, 5-1 on the kills. 4,500 gold in the lead, and they're looking to tack more onto that with this potential mid lane turret. Crown is showing up from the sidelines, so trying to dissuade this from happening. But even so, KT.
Oh, it's Rift Herald double item Renekton. That's fun. Who's going there, Achilles?
Cuvée doesn't want to, but he knows that it's his job.
Bad times for Samsung. They got literally nothing going in this game, apart from the fact that Camille had a pretty good laning phase, but KT got the bot lane first brick when they overdived on the Renekton. And then the bot lane showed up in top and made Cuvé's life a misery, so now that's not a relevant factor. Playing the 3 lanes makes the map just too wide for champions like specifically the Syndra to make it between lanes, likely to be ganked on the way. Just feel that the gold greed lead is going to continue to grow. It's only 4,500, but this feels like a 10,000 gold game.
It really does, and that's just the presence of KT when they get ahead like this. Their early game, typically, it's so very clean. It's exactly what we saw from them last time they played Samsung. Not as much as it was in game number 1 of that series,
no,
as we keep talking about, but
I mean,
this is still just total control.
Remember, it's a single kill. Otherwise, it's a perfect game.
That's
from
true.
KT. So, we're pretty close, you know?
It is, yeah.
Could have been something different, but yeah, things escalated quickly.
That would have been crazy, just having the double game 1 perfect games.
That would have been eerie. That shouldn't happen between the 2nd and 3rd best teams in the LCK, but this has always been the boogeyman for Samsung. Despite all their growth, they can just never get it done against KT, but they did it the one time, you know? And that was the most important one. So at least there's no way for KT to take that away. You can beat them in the regular season as many times as you want, but if you lose the most important one, does it really matter?
Yep. That's all Samsung's doing. They're hiding their strategies for the playoffs.
Sandbagging, you might say?
Yeah. The most long con sandbag that they could possibly do.
I don't know. China International Events is up there.
Oh.
It was too easy. It was the low-hanging fruit, Achilles.
It was too easy. That's what everybody says after they play against China.
Oh, now you're going hard.
Somewhere Froskirian's watching. She's just like, oh.
Hey. At least I'm a previous LPL caster. You're just a hater.
I'm just like somebody who likes poking fun. I like stoking the fire every now and then.
Just wait for someone else to start the fire. Then you're like, I've got wood, guys. I'm going to throw it in there. Yep, it's bigger now.
Ruler, oh boy. I mean, what more can you say? Just push too far forward inside the mid lane, gets taken out. Pawn. Getting pinched on by Core JJ, but I don't think he can do enough.
Nope.
Yeah, doesn't hit the glitter lance to slow him up. He's going to be sprinting out. He's like, yeah, glad I got that ghost.
Only 1 point in the glitter lance as well, so wasn't going to be DPSing anyone down. Flashbacks of the Luden's Echo mid lane Lulus are just that, flashbacks. And Baron is pretty much whenever they want it. They don't have a tank there.
Could be right now.
They have so much damage.
Trying to bait it. Chain of Corruption comes through. Ambition gets popped, and that's going to be Baron for KT.
A party Stranglethorns as
Or
well
maybe
to
not.
celebrate the kill.
I might have other ideas. Smeb splitting. I think
mean,
you just go for the Baron.
Well, Cuvée can't enter lane against Smeb unless it's under his inhibitor turret.
Huh. Well, they're delaying for a little bit. Interesting.
The only way you lose this game is to throw at Baron, so I don't mind them taking their time and shopping. Extra Needless Large Rod added on for Pawn. Shop comes in for the Renekton as well, who is even tanky on a budget to complement all the damage he had earlier.
Yeah, this is just gross.
Yep. No other word to do it, and it makes you wonder. I wonder what 5 members of Samsung will play in Game 2.
Good question. Could you see Haru come back out, maybe? Ambition hasn't had much presence on the map with this Rengar.
Do you consider swapping the bot lane, who weren't the problem? That's another option you could do.
Yeah, I mean, Ruler and Core JJ were crushing as far as the CS numbers went, but
And then they overdived in top, and they had to lose their turret, and then the game was kind of over for them.
yeah,
Not really anything they can do in the face of the map being lost around them. So I think it'll be harsh, but it's a possibility. It's an option for Samsung.
so maybe you bring in Haru, and then you put Stitch in the top lane. There we go. Perfect.
I think Wraith is more of a top laner, personally.
That's true. You can just play the Kale. Plays Leona again.
He played Nami somehow.
Just AP Leona. It's just like, my W's going to hit so hard.
With Smite, just follow the jungle. Sick ganks there. Well, we have to talk about silly things, because the actual game is really depressing. KT have everything working for them. Everything you could
God.
possibly ask for.
Poor
We're just
JJ
waiting for them
gets
to turn
chucked
onto
out.
that Baron.
I mean, oh, here we go. They're going to go ahead and jump on Ambition yet again. They pop him. Realm Warp coming through into the mid lane. Pawn arrives. We'll get polymorphed off the bat, so you can't get the lockdown on the Ruler to come up with the kill. But Jungler dead yet again. KT, do they finally push over for this Baron? They're starting to inch that way, but might just be baiting yet again.
It feels like everywhere on the map, it's not objectives for KT, it's pinatas. Every enemy champion a pinata, the Baron a pinata. They just get something everywhere. They've all got the ability to get lumps of gold wherever they go, and they're going to start the Baron. They could always turn off this one.
Quite a bit of damage. They do have that Mountain Drake helping them out. Probably going to have to retreat to the side. Doesn't want to get caught up in the crossfire from that curtain call. Def takes a lot of damage, and that will delay KT. So good job by Samsung. 4v5. Don't even have to push up. Jhin ult's enough to do it.
And it's so non-committal, opening up so far away, that shows you why the Baron is a little bit tricky. Okay.
Cuve's going to try to go in onto Pawn. Thinks that everybody else is gone, but Smeb is still here. Trying to core JJ now roaming up. They're able to find one. They won't be able to find another. Smeb just can't do enough to dissuade that. So good wrap around by the rest of Samsung to come up with a pick. But can they get anything else? Mid lane tier 1 is a bit low. There's an Infernal Drake there.
And the Infernal seems like the easiest objective. But
they opt in for it. Cuve getting locked down. He gets popped up, and he will fall. Def just chucking out that Chain of Corruption to get the assist.
So we'll go with a no on that question.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Infernal Drake to KT.
Just go and start that one up. Even the Drake's working out pretty happily. Cloud Drake, not ideal, but does allow Renekton to close the distance. He's getting basically melee range for the W to come through, and there's the Infernal. It's going to be another Infernal as far as we could tell. Might have flashed over afterwards. Yeah, it's going to be a Cloud. My apologies.
Close enough, right?
Well, Cuve walked into a brush, and let's see what cost him.
Oh.
Oh, well, that was just silly.
All right, then. Definitely not the direction that you wanted to go in.
Deft almost chained him to death. Wasn't able to. Smeb still wearing the Rift Herald buff for a while. He does not want to enter that lane, but like you mentioned, he's the only one left. Level 16 Renekton, looking fearsome. But the Baron seems difficult. You know, they have to have Renekton there to tank it. Kha'Zix, Ryze, and the other members can trade tank, but that means the Jhin ultimate will get them all low. So the last piece of the puzzle for now is slowing down KT a little bit. It isn't 10,000 gold. It is only 8.5. Right, 7.5. So still large for this time in the game, but not unassailable.
Samsung just needs to bank on KT making a massive mistake if they want to come up with this win, though.
Well, the one ward behind Marta and Pawn is costing them an attempt here, so they have to problem solve where that ward is, because they're not buying the bait.
Pushing into the jungle, might just be looking for a turret here. Flash forward, Ruler gets locked down, Realm Warp into the back. Pawn arrives, a little bit too late to get kill credit. He will get jumped on, though, by Ambition. He's getting locked up by Smeb, who's just feeling free to go ahead and stick in the middle of the remaining Samsung members. Gets popped up by the Wild Growth as it goes over to Ambition, but he's still quite all right. He is still healthy, can tank up the Baron.
This time they don't have to worry about the curtain call. Ambition's still alive, but doesn't have ult either. They're going to turn onto the Baron. Ambition is in base. They do a lot of damage, Infernal and Mountain. They're going to start a defense. It needs to be now, Samsung.
Otto waiting to try to gatekeep with the roots, trying to lock somebody down. Baron going low, will get taken out. Now they just pile in onto ground. He gets popped. Zamada finds a killing blow. Kube getting locked up as well. And Samsung, I think he just have to kind of write this game off and start looking forward to game number 2, because there's just not a thing they can do. Kube not tanky enough, nor is Ambition just soak up any of the damage that's being output by the roster of KT Rolster.
I completely agree. Even Special Agent Varus 007 is accelerated this game. All the items starting to come together for Deft, who's been a passenger on the Smeb Express, it feels like. Even though Smeb doesn't have the kill pressure, he's been the thorn that Samsung have had no answer to. And definitely this is when you start talking about what could change in future games, what mistakes were made in this game that accelerated the game for KT oh so quickly in the mid-game. Even the gambles, like Pawn going so selfish with his champion pick, and Summoners have worked out for KT.
Samsung at least got 2 kills. So even further away from that perfect game.
You know, probably doesn't feel like that right now.
Nope.
If you're a Samsung fan or a Samsung player.
Can't even say that they're doing twice as well as that game, because 2 times 0 is still 0. Juve getting chunked out. Overload almost kills him. He's able to peel back to the fountain, but this turret will fall. Curtain call's opened up by Ruler. Trying to find a pick, trying to just stop them from taking the inhib. Smeb still splitting up top. See how long he wants to stick around for, but the rest of KT likely will go ahead and just remain and try to pressure out this inhib.
And they will keep the pressure on, like you say, at the same time as top inhibitor turrets going down.
Juve getting ripped down to half HP. Smeb barely taking any damage, even with some turret shots coming through. Hip the focus. Deft just trying to poke them out with those piercing arrows as best as possible. Thrill the Hunt gets popped, but it's actually going up toward the Renekton. I think they figured this out right about now. Technical sweep comes in, does slow him up. He's still massive. The ultimatum comes through, trades one onto Kube. Can he get a second one? Slice and dices through, and he's just going to come up with the 1v2 solo kill. Smeb just stomps out Samsung's hopes. Deft going low, will stay alive for the moment. Ruler has to pop the heal, hightail it out of there. Jukes out on that deadly flourish. 3 members are dead. TP coming through from Smeb, keeping the wave alive in the bottom lane. A second inhib going to fall in top. And KT, can they just close it out here? 30 seconds on Ambition, 20 about on Kube, and 30 on Crown. I think they just have to finish.
While a crocodile is usually scary, this is Godzilla right here, Achilles. They tried to 2v1 him and he got a double kill. Solo kills are already prized. The 1v2 double kill is just insane, but that will actually lead to the end of the game. All the super minion waves pushing in. KT wiping the floor with Samsung Galaxy. And it's felt like this many times, but regular season 19-0 for KT over Samsung Galaxy in the LCK era.
Yeah, 33 minutes on the clock, 3 kills, all that Samsung were able to pick up to avoid a perfect game by KT. They just completely stomped them into the ground. And now Samsung, what are they going to do coming in for game number 2? Getting a better pick for Crown, more likely on the red side since they can wait till the last pick, but the rest of the lanes are still going to be a bit of an issue with top and jungle just getting ran over.
They are a veteran squad now. They have been around the block. They made it to the World Finals, so it's probably not going to have the same effect that it might have in previous seasons, but like you say, the adjustments here need to be titanic from the side of Samsung, and they're trying adjustments. Cuvée for picking up the Rumble, Crown picking up the Syndra is the start of the adjustments to make them more capable of being the top teams in the world, in the LCK, but it's still not working. The teething problems still exist. Teething problems not there for KT Rolster. Took some gambles with Pawn, but wasn't punished, and then, man, the game turned and then some for KT Rolster.
And I mean, if KT come back into the game 2 and they have a similar performance, we're going to have a much earlier night than we expected. Papa Smithy had 3 games in the first set, still got done in time to start this one at 8 p.m. And now things are not looking good for Samsung. So they need to have the biggest shift in play as we come back from this break. KT just doing such a good job, and I think we can expect that the Varus is probably also not going to make it through the draft.
Yeah, the questions will remain how it didn't go at the first pick. Remember, Samsung had first pick and KT got Varus. I'm sure they were aware the pick was open, at least I hope so, because the pick definitely came back to haunt them, even if it wasn't the main factor in this game.
Scary spot to be in. Do you give the Camille to Smeb, or do you give the Varus to Deft? Either way, doesn't matter.
I got both hands up, Achilles.
Doesn't matter, KT. They still managed the win with either or. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we will have game 2. We'll see if Samsung can fire back or if KT closes out.